but will construction of a southern border wall continue in your administration?
I will tell you that my highest priority is to put the resources into ensuring that our border is secure, which is why I've been very clear. I'm going to bring back up, as president, that bipartisan border security bill and make sure that it is brought to my desk so I can sign it into law. The biggest issue that we have right now is that Donald Trump has stood in the way of what would have been a proven part of the solution to the bigger problem, which is that we have a broken immigration system in America and we need to fix it. And we have the tools at hand, but we have on the other side of this election Donald Trump, who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. I intend to fix the problem in a way that is just about practical solutions that are within our arm's reach if we have the commitment to do it.
Ma'am, one question on abortion. Ma'am, one question on abortion.
All right, guys, Carlton Flowers here with the Go Political channel, and wow. So here we are again talking about this border bill. So in interview after interview, we keep hearing the same thing from Kamala Harris, that Trump wants to run on a problem and instead of solving a problem. And it just continues, and there's no answer, a definitive answer that is given on what she's exactly going to do. Forget the fact that she created the problem. Well, Joe Biden, we won't throw her under the bus, but Joe Biden came in to power in 2020, and on day one, he reversed a myriad of executive orders that were put in place by former President Donald Trump. I sounded like Obama on that. Former President Donald Trump. Now, if you add them all up, all of the executive actions that they killed that had to do with border security, some say it's 90, others say 91, and I've even heard 94. I've found several, and we won't go through all that. I can do another video and show you the executive orders that were deemed racist, unconstitutional, mean, wrong, morally wrong, whatever. But the point is, 91 executive orders that were reversed, killed, flushed down the toilet in 2020. So then all of a sudden we get a massive influx of illegal aliens coming across the border. And then late into the game, was it this year, earlier this year, they proposed a border bill. But here's the interesting thing. Why did they even call it a border bill? And I'm going to get into that in a second here. But what is most interesting, as you heard, Kamala Harris repeats this notion that Donald Trump killed the border bill. No, Donald Trump killed the bipartisan border bill, because she claims that both Republicans and Democrats wanted to have this bill passed to fix the problem, but Donald Trump called his friends and told them to vote down the bill because he'd rather run on a problem than solve a problem. Okay, so I have a problem with that whole statement. Number one, if you're going to accuse Donald Trump of running on a problem rather than solving a problem, it puts the spotlight back on you. Because what Joe Biden did, Sleepy Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe Biden, what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did, they created a problem to provide a solution. So maybe, in all fairness, she should include that little truth into her statement. Trump wants to run on a problem rather than solve it, but we like to create a massive problem and then provide a solution that's not even a solution. Because the so-called border bill would have still allowed 1.8 million illegals to come across the border unchecked. and it did not give the resources that were necessary to solve this problem. Now, furthermore, let's just jump over here to the desktop. I want to show you something. Let's just look at this for a minute. And this is why I say that the border bill lie that just won't die. The reason why I call it a lie is because of this bar chart sitting in front of you. So I did a video on this already, but it keeps coming up. I even had somebody who was repeating these canned talking points from Kamala Harris. This individual posted in my comment section on my community post tab, bringing this up again. But then when we look at this so-called border bill, which has a $118 billion price tag, why do we see that we have this massive bar here where $60.1 billion of the border bill was funding for the Ukraine war, where $20.2 billion was allocated to U.S. border security? Now, to add insult to injury, we had a whopping $14.1 billion going to Israel for munitions for the war in the Middle East. We had another, $10 billion going to the Gaza area. We had $4.8 billion going to shore up our allies for the Indo-Pacific threat from China. And then we had $2.4 billion being allocated to fund the Red Sea conflicts. So why are we calling this a border bill? Does this make any sense to you? Where 3 times the amount that was allocated for a crappy bill that wouldn't have solved the problem, we have 3 times the amount that's going to the Ukraine for munitions. But we're calling this a border bill. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say about this. So this is just, it's not true to call this a border bill. If it's not true, what are we left to call this? A lie. All right, so part of the lie is that it was bipartisan. Do you know that there were Democrats that voted down this bill? The general consensus was the bill wasn't going to pass. It doesn't matter who Donald Trump called, if he even made a phone call. But let's just say Donald Trump did call his friends and tell them to vote down the bill. So Kamala Harris is running for president of the United States, and she expects us to have a greater sense of security and knowing that she's going to be an effective leader when she did not have the ability as sitting vice president to get this bill passed, because Donald Trump, who was not in the White House at the time, a former president, had more power than her to kill her bills. So then how do we expect to believe that you're going to get anything done if you're telling us that you don't have the power, leadership, and ability to pass a bill while you're there? Because outside influences that are not in the White House can override you. So what you're saying is you're not an effective leader. And then furthermore, this is not a border bill. Okay, so let me reel back to the previous point that this, the executive actions, the 91 executive actions that were reversed, created the problem, which means that this whole border bill wouldn't have even been necessary. It's funny, why didn't we need this border bill during the Trump administration? Why didn't we need this border bill during the Obama administration, the Bush administration, Clinton? None of the previous presidents even agree with the way that immigration has been handled by the current administration. For God's sake, you had former President Bill Clinton out there stumping for Kamala Harris, and he said with his own mouth that it's probably their fault because of all the executive orders that were reversed that the problem existed in the first place. He said it with his own mouth. You can go look at the video clips yourself. He wasn't doing Kamala Harris any favors. So Donald Trump wants to run on a problem rather than solving a problem. Right. And you would rather create a problem and then provide a crappy solution. So if you think that She's not lying. And if you think that anything she said in that clip that I showed you in the beginning makes any sense, make sense of it for me. And please explain to me how this non-border bill, which was an excuse to dump another $60 billion into a war that is not winnable. $60 billion, it could have been spent here in the United States solving the infrastructure crisis or helping veterans, helping the people who really need help, the homeless. And besides the fact, kind of makes me think of the statement that she says that they keep repeating that's been debunked by Snopes about Donald Trump stating that military veterans are suckers and losers. Now, that's an outright lie, and she's still using that lie while covering up the fake border bill, spending $60 billion on the war that is not winnable, when that money could have been used for the same suckers and losers that you claim Donald Trump was speaking about, which was an outright lie. So help me out here. Just help me understand it. How do you win an election doing this? How does this strategy work? I honestly don't get it. I don't. I just don't get it. But maybe you can help me out with that. If I was an advisor to the Kamala Harris campaign, I would say walk away from this. Walk it back. Stop shooting off your mouth and speaking about it, because it's obvious that you created this problem. And it's obvious that your excuse that you're providing right now and putting everybody's focus on this so-called border bill, nobody's going to fall for that. So why don't you just say, hey, we made a mistake? Why don't you tell people in the interviews when you're asked, like you were asked on CNN, do you have any regrets and are there any mistakes you made that you would speak on right now, that you would change if you become president? Oh, nope, nothing I can think of. We would like to hear you making an admission that the reversal of the policies of the executive actions from the previous President Donald Trump was a big mistake. It went wrong. It went bad. It went really, really, really bad. And we did create a crisis. And now it's going to take a lot of work to clean up the crisis that we are in the middle of. Well, that's all I have for this one. And I hope to dear God that this doesn't come up again. I hope I don't have to do another video on this, because we're beating a dead horse. I'm tired of talking about it. And again, I don't think this is anything that's going to help her to get elected. If she wants to win, you're going about it the wrong way. Well, that's all I got for now. This is Carlton, and I am out.